Okay, great. Hey, my pleasure to introduce a good friend of mine, Poonati here, stress and anxiety coach. A little bit of background about him briefly. He used to work in the corporate world. He worked for Ernst & Young, so I can imagine that there was a lot of stress there. He felt the need to really impact people's lives. And what he noticed most was that stress and anxiety was really affecting people more than anything else. So that was his true passion, his calling. He has helped me greatly. He even has me journaling, of all things. I never thought I would journal. I used to make fun of people who journal, but now I do it religiously, and it's definitely increased my productivity and definitely alleviated my anxiety and stress. Getting it out of my head and on paper helps a lot. So with that in mind, my pleasure, Poonati.
Thanks, Charles. Thanks, Scott and NIA for this opportunity. And basically, today's going to be really fun because I'm all about having fun. And I'm sure Charles and Scott can attest to that. So basically what we're going to do is I'm just going to introduce myself. I know, well, not introduce myself, but kind of tell you my background of how I got into this, because it's a real interesting story. And then we're going to do some workshop exercises because you're attending this, because I'm assuming that you want to have some stress and anxiety techniques. If you don't, that's cool too, you know, it's all good. And then after that, I'm going to tell you about this NIA special that I'm offering, and we'll go ahead and answer Q&As, and I love to answer any questions that you guys may have. If you guys are all cool with that, type in "I'm in the chat so I know where we're at with things. All right, awesome. So, as Charles was saying, actually, hold on one second. Scott and Daniela, are you going to admit people as they start coming into the room, or do you want me to do that?
No, I got you. Do that. We got you covered.
Okay, cool. Just making sure. Awesome. So, as Charles was saying, I was in a very stressful situation when I was working for Ernst & Young, but it actually even started before then. So I graduated in 2007 from Purdue University, and I don't know if you guys remember what happened in 2008, but kind of had like a huge financial crisis. And I was actually in the financial industry at that time. I was a cold calling stockbroker in Chicago, and you can only imagine how that was in 2008, right? It kind of felt like the movie Boiler Room, you know, cannot get anybody on the phone. But what I did realize at that time, I was like, okay, I like finance and I like accounting. And pay attention to the words "like," because there's a definitive distinction between when I use the word "like," interest, and passion. So I was very interested in finance and accounting. I liked it a lot. And I decided to go back to school. I'm originally from Central New York, and I went to Syracuse University for my master's. I got my master's in finance, and I got my master's in accounting. And then I was able to work for Ernst & Young, which is a top 4 accounting firm. And I was also very interested in that. I liked it a lot. I did it for about 15 months. And then I realized that I just wasn't happy. And what I mean by I wasn't happy is that I kept getting interested in so many avenues and so many industries, but I wasn't passionate about anything. And that's when it came clear to me. I was like, okay, I really, really have to figure out what my passion is and what my calling is. So I remember the date specifically. It was February 23rd, 2014, sunrise. I cabbed it to Central Park. And I meditated for about 40 minutes, and I distinctively said it in this tone. I was like, Pree, if you can do anything in the world, what do you want to do, man? You know, like, what do you want to do, man? You know, what is it? It's like, what's bugging you? And is those 40 minutes through meditation, what I realized is like, okay, I wanted to help people. At first I wanted to help homeless people, but I was like, let's start with regular people first before we get into homeless people, just to see where we're at with things. And then I was like, okay, cool, but what can I help them out with? I already have 3 degrees, right? I got my general management degree, I got my finance degree, I got my accounting degree. I'm not gonna go back to get another degree because it just wasn't worth it to me. And it just didn't make sense at that time because I'm not in the industry of collecting degrees, you know? So, but what I realized was that I did P90X in 2012. Have you guys ever heard of P90X? If you guys heard of P90X, type P90X in the chat. I just want to see where we're at with that. And P90X, I actually ate healthy for the very first time. It introduced me to yoga, and I just felt really, really confident with just my body, my strength, my health. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna start a gym. And remember, I have no experience doing this, but I was like, I want to help people live a more fulfilled lifestyle. And I know that that started with fitness, nutrition, yoga, and I've always meditated on and off my whole entire life. So I was like, okay, I want to throw meditation in there. So I created Nirvana Gym, and Nirvana Gym, actually the acronym, N stands for nutrition, G stands for gymnasium, Y stands for yoga, M stands for meditation. I was like, cool, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm not gonna do this in New York because I'm sure you guys are aware of, like, rent in New York is ridiculous. So I moved to Austin. I got my nutrition certification. I got my personal training certification. I got my yoga certification, and I got my meditation certification. And that was great. The gym was excellent. It was running along swimmingly. But then what I realized with the gym was that people were using the gym as a coping mechanism to not do the work at home. Because the reason I created those 4 pillars around nutrition, fitness, yoga, and meditation was that I wanted to help people develop their mental state, their physical state, and their spiritual state on a daily basis. Because every time I did that, I felt like I was the king in the world. And every time I told other people to do that, like, they were conquering the world. I was like, okay, this is the game plan for me to teach people how to feel more fulfilled. But like I said, people weren't doing the work at home. Tell me if this sounds like you or anybody else that you know. It's like you've had a really stressful week. You know, you go work out maybe once a week, or you go take a yoga class once a week, and then you feel good, but then what happens? We build up that stress again, and then we go to that yoga class and de-stress, and then we build it up again and de-stress, and it's kind of like we're yo-yoing back and forth. I'm like, okay, this isn't why I got into the business. So coincidentally, I shut down 3 months before COVID because, you know, I could predict that it was coming because I'm a psychic. Actually, I'm not, but I just want to throw that out there. But what happened was that I was like, okay, I don't need to teach. I don't need a physical establishment to help people with their stress and anxiety. I need to provide a platform, a coaching program, support system where I can go ahead and do that. And then when I went home during COVID, this was March 2020. And when I was finally able to remove myself from distractions, because I was pretty depressed after I shut down the gym, because, you know, this was my grandiose idea, you know, this was going to be it. And, you know, I was kind of going through the motions a little bit, but I was like, okay, now that I'm at home, I'm eating my mom's favorite Indian food, which, you know, I love, by the way. And I finally got to think, I was like, okay, I know exactly what I want to do here. And I focused on becoming a stress and anxiety coach more than a life coach, because stress and anxiety can run our lives if we let it. And I'm sure we learned that during the pandemic. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't want stress and anxiety to run people's lives anymore, because I know if I struggled with it and I'm very aware of what's going on, then I know that it's also hurting other people as well. So I was like, all right, I need to create a game plan. I need to create something that will make it super easy for people to follow, like a recipe, a routine, where they're like, wow, this is so easy right now. And that's pretty much the baseline of my story. And I know that this is my true calling because I was interested in finance. I was interested in accounting. I started off as an engineer. I was interested in all these things. And what I realized from people is that we're interested in so many things, but if we're not passionate about what we're meant to do, what we're called for, then we're always going to be a dog chasing either its own tail or chasing another bone. So I was like, okay, I want to bring it in. And I know the first part of overcoming stress and anxiety is to find out like what our purpose is, what our passion is. And that's what we're going to get into today. Does that all sound good for everybody? Thumbs up? Even though I can't see half of you, it's all good. All right. So with that being said, I am going to share my screen, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple exercises. Do you guys have pen and paper with you? I know I probably didn't tell you to bring pen and paper, but you can use your laptop to take notes as well. And like I said, we're going to make this very interactive. So we'll do about 3 or 4 exercises. And then what I like to do with these presentations, I like people to share as well. If you're open to sharing, can you write share in the chat so I know that you guys are cool with it? Because I know some people are scared to share this sort of stuff. Sweet. Awesome. Okay. So let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. So this is an overview of stress and anxiety. We talked about my story. We're going to get into the definition of stress and anxiety, the reasons we experience stress and anxiety, creating an anxiety-free life, and how we can get anxiety-free support. So I just told you my story. We're not going to go through that. So the definition of stress is a physical, chemical, or emotional factor that causes bodily or mental tension and may be a factor in disease causation. The definition of anxiety: a mentally distressing concern or interest, a strong desire, sometimes mixed with doubt, fear, or uneasiness. Now, those are the technical definitions of stress and anxiety. But can I give you my definition of why I think we experience stress and anxiety, like in layman's terms, so we can actually put this into, oh yeah, this completely applies to me. So I think we experience stress and anxiety for 2 reasons. One is that we are trying to achieve a certain outcome, whether that's financially, whether that's with their relationship, whether that's with their health, whatever it is, but we are unable to meet that expectation. And when we don't meet that expectation, then we feel like, okay, I don't know what's wrong with me. It's like, I'm not doing good at this. And then we get into the comparison paradox. Well, this person is really good financially, or like this person is really good with their relationships, or like, you know, this person is super healthy. And what happens is the reason we experience stress and anxiety is because we know what outcome we want to get to, but we haven't yet figured out how to overcome the obstacles that are preventing us from getting to that desired outcome or that desired expectation. If that makes sense, type yes in the chat. Okay, perfect. The other reason we experience stress and anxiety, this is very simple, but it's because nowadays, I'm talking about 2022 compared to like 1996. In 2022, we have so much input. We have so much external stimulation, whether it's from our friends, our family, the news, social media, TV, Netflix, right? Like we have all the stimulation, and every time we have to make a decision, it usually follows this process. It's like, okay, and I'm gonna give you a real life example. It's like, okay, Pree is talking to me right now. Is what he's saying relevant? If it is relevant, okay, cool. I might want to implement this one day. And now we need to move it into a storage pattern. Am I going to implement it right away? Am I going to implement it later? If I'm going to implement it right away, what expectation can I have from this implementation of this, of what Pree is talking about? If I'm going to implement it later, then it's going to be like, where am I going to store it where I can access it whenever I need it? So that way I know that I don't have to use any extra memory, any extra thought process to go ahead and store that information. So, and we're doing that like thousands of times a day with our thoughts and our decisions. Now, if we reject the information, that's fine, right? If we reject it, then we don't have to put any, more mental thinking around it. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, you can also type in yes in the chat. Okay, sweet. So those are, in my opinion, if we can get those two systems figured out, how to overcome obstacles, how to anticipate obstacles, how to welcome obstacles, because as much as we don't want to admit it, like something bad is going to happen to us. Like that is just the way of being a human being, and you can either fight against it or you're going to be like, you know what? It is what it is. And perfect analogy is like, when is a perfect time to get a flat tire? Can anybody tell me? Or, you could just type it in the chat. Exactly, Monica. The answer is never. There's no perfect time to get a flat tire, right? But when you get it, you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to ignore this, because you can't, right? Like you have to figure out the situation at hand. So problems, challenges, obstacles are always going to arise. The way we react to them, the way we overcome them, the way we welcome them allows us, or actually also the way we plan for them also allows us to reach our desired state, our desired outcome, our desired expectation a lot easier. Okay, cool. I know that was a little bit of a soliloquy. So going back to the slides. And somebody asked if I'm gonna share the slides later, and yes, the answer will be yes. Okay. Now, I also added a few more reasons here. The reasons we experience stress and anxiety. Can everybody see this, or is this a little hard to read? I'm gonna assume you, okay, well, if you guys can't read it, I'll just go ahead and share it with you. So I call it the 5 I's. And the first one is incoherence, which is we often can't figure out why we keep repeating the same patterns that we're trying to break through from. Has anybody else experienced that? It's like you don't want to eat junk food, but every time you get stressed, you eat junk food. You get mad at yourself for eating junk food, and you can't figure out why you keep eating junk food. So that is an example of incoherence. Another reason we experience stress and anxiety is impatience. We are impatient with the results, hence our progress, and therefore concluding that this isn't working. Going back to weight loss, for example. If we're overweight and let's say we want to lose 20 or 30 pounds, and let's say we're losing 3 pounds a week, but then for the first 3 weeks, and the next 3 weeks we stall, maybe we lose like half a pound or a quarter pound. We're like, okay, this isn't working, I'm giving up. But that happens every time, right? Like we as human beings somehow have this concept that I'm going to learn how to ride a bike in my first try. I'm going to learn how to, be a successful business person in my first try. There's not going to be any obstacles, but there is a lot of patience that we need to develop. And if we can develop that patience muscle, that's really going to help us see things through in the long term. The third one is indecision. And I know I suffer with this a lot and still suffer from it a little bit, but definitely not as much as I used to. Analysis paralysis. We overanalyze information to a state of overwhelm, hence preventing us from making a decision. Has anybody else experienced analysis paralysis? Put that in the chat if you have, because I know there's at least one of you that has experienced it. All right, and then the fourth one is intimidation, fear. We want to do good for ourselves in the world, but deep down we know how daunting of a task that is. And this is actually very prevalent to business owners. If it's like making sales calls, or if it's, asking people for a sale, or if it's thinking about what your family is going to think or what friends are going to think when you start your own business, like that, unfortunately, is a real thing that prevents us from getting to a place of like where we want to get to. And that's also a major cause of stress and anxiety. And the fifth one is what we're going to cover today, is called indiscretion. It's like we have no purpose, values, principles to live by. So we wander up, so we end up being a wandering dog chasing your own tail, where we chase like every shiny object. And what happens is when we chase every shiny object, we can't make traction in one way or another. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. So to create an anxiety-free life, what we're going to do today is we are going to focus on what our values are, what our purpose is, because if we have our values and we know what our purpose is, now we have clarity to take conscious action to live a life of fulfillment. If we don't know what our values are, if we don't know what our purpose is, it goes back to that indiscretion principle that I just showed in the previous slide. We're chasing everything and we're not making any progress in one way or another. Okay? So we're going to take the next 3 minutes to go ahead and write down what our values are. And to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to start off with my values. So that way you'll kind of have like a starting point. So value number 1 for me is integrity. Like I need to live with integrity, everything I do, everything that I say, and I'm definitely not perfect with it, but every day I strive to be a little bit better. And under the integrity umbrella follows connection. I love connecting with people. Growth. I love personally growing. I love like growing my business. I love learning about new things, new techniques. That's going to just give me more knowledge. The fourth value is love. I'm still practicing self-love, unconditional love. When I'm not doing well, or I'm not meeting my expectation, I'm trying to give myself grace, some compassion, and just really let that love pour into me so it can pour out to other people. The fifth one is fun, and this is going to sound a little funny, but there's a part of me who I label as carefree Pree that comes out once in a while. And when business Pree and carefree Pree are working together, then that's like the best version of Pree. So like having more fun and not being so like business all the time really allows me to kind of be in a more playful mood, which makes me more fun to hang around and be around, and just makes me feel more complete in general. The next one is equality. I have been very privileged in terms of the way I've grown up, and I know other people might not have had that same privilege. So part of me doing what I'm doing as a stress and anxiety coach is also to give back to underprivileged communities that weren't able to have the same resources that I have. So that's also a big value of mine. The last two is simplicity. What can I do to simplify my life? Whether that's minimalism, whether that's making less decisions, whether that's creating a better organizational routine, whether that's creating automations in my business, whatever it is, it's to simplify. The less decisions we have to make, then the less stressed and anxious we'll be. And the last and not least is self-respect. What if I feel like I'm not self-respecting myself, if I feel like I'm self-bullying myself, or other people are, talking down upon me or bullying me, or I'm not sticking up to myself, then that is a very low cause of self-esteem for me. And it's better for me to build that muscle to get that confidence to respect myself. So we're going to take the next 2 minutes to go ahead and write down our own values, and then we'll take about another 2 minutes to share. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and put a timer on so that way we're good to go. Okay. And let's start now. I'm going to stop my screen share for now. All right. Yeah, so let's go ahead and type in the chat about some of our values. So Steven said love of learning, forgiveness, perspective, social intelligence, fairness. Beautiful, Steven. Love them. Anybody else? Teresa said faith, family, financial, security, wellness, beautiful beginnings, friends. A lot of F's in there, Teresa. I like it. Cool. Dan said fair, balance. Jennifer said kindness, love, acceptance, integrity. Beautiful. Andrea said spirituality, consciousness, self-love, health, service, grace, ease, and fun. Lou, I love it. Not just doing the right thing, but doing it for the right reason. Scott, build community. Charles, self-accountability and integrity. Awesome. Great stuff, guys. Great stuff. So now it's great doing a value exercise, but now what I would suggest you do is write these values on a piece of paper and ask yourself, am I being, whatever those values are, and I'm going to use Chanel's values right now. It's like, am I living a life of loyalty today? Am I living a life of integrity today? Am I tapping into my spirituality? Am I persevering with whatever that I'm struggling with? And if you can hit your values every day, guys, you're going to have a pretty damn good day, But if we don't know what they are, then we don't have anything to guide us. So do me a favor. Your homework today is just write down your values. Make it like super fancy that you love to look at, like maybe if you want to make them on flashcards, maybe if you want to design them somewhere, or, get business cards with them, but make them fun and appropriate to look at. Not appropriate's the wrong word, but make it appealing to look at, where you're like, wow, I like looking at these things every day. Okay, awesome. Now, with our values, that kind of gives us what our purpose is. And now we're going to spend the next 2 minutes to get your purpose. And I want to say outright, your values may change as you get older or as situations arise. Like right now, I'm single and I don't have any kids. So like, even though I love my parents and my sisters, like, and family is a big value to me, it's not like a core value. But if I do have kids, then, family is going to become a huge value play for me. So whatever your current values are right now are what they are right now. They'll change, they might not change, but just know that, let that be fluid. And once we know what our values are, this really helps us redefine our purpose or define our purpose. And once again, our purpose doesn't have to be set in stone for the rest of our life. It just is what it is right now in this phase of our life. And my purpose I feel like this is going to sound a little grandiose, but it is what it is. It's my purpose. My purpose is to heal the world, and it's to heal the world like one family at a time, one business owner at a time. Because if I can teach people how to live a stress-free and anxiety-free life, then what happens is they will start teaching other people how to do that. And then once parents and the older generation knows how to overcome stress and anxiety, then they're going to pass that on to their children. And then children won't have to suffer from the same causes of stress and anxiety that we suffered from. And then obviously, the more communities we have transformed, then the more cities, then the more states, then the nation and the world, and then the universe. And if you're big into Marvel, then it'll be the multiverse too, you know? But my values make up my purpose. And thank you, Amanda. And what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna take the next couple minutes to identify what our purpose is. And it's okay if you don't know what it is. I mean, I'm putting you on the spot right now, and I'm giving you 2 minutes to define something that is like what your purpose is. And realistically, it's not possible in 2 minutes, but I want you to think about it, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and start the timer again, and then we will get going. All right, and let's start. Okay. I see some coming in, so I'm just gonna go ahead and read some. Lou said, I discovered my purpose 4 years ago. I'm here to help people be better people. Apply accordingly. Lou, I love that. Teresa's is to live in love. Larry's is helping others see the best version of themselves. I also love that one, Larry. Andrea's is my purpose is to support men and women in remembering the truth of their own divine blueprint, reclaim their own power and love themselves again. Yes, love it. Amanda's is to light others up and help them see the light within themselves. Guys, these are beautiful purposes. Joanne is, my purpose is to serve as a conduit of change in the world, one person, one client at a time. Joanne, I love that one as well. To empower all around me to be financially abundant is what Rampertub, I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, but that's a beautiful one too. I think we should all be financially abundant. My purpose is to empower young people in order to inspire change for the future. I love that, Preeti Paul. Donna, to encourage people to regain hope and provide them with the tools and resources for thriving. Yes, hope's a big one. I think a lot of people lost hope. Jennifer, be the light, connect people. It's one of my values. Amanda's getting all teary-eyed with the smiling emoji. That's kind of like rain and sunshine at the same time. I love that. And Andy's is to become the best version of myself to inspire others to become the best version of themselves. Okay, Andy, leading by example. There's no greater power than that. Vina's is to build the self-esteem and confidence of youths in my communities for better society. Vina, we're on the same page. And Natalie's is to teach, guide, inspire, support, empower, be of service. Okay, wonderful. So, how do we feel now? Are we feeling good? Are we feeling like we have a little bit of a direction of like who we want to become or who we're trying to become, how we can impact the world? Because remember, guys, the world isn't just about us, you know, it's about what impact we can make, not only for ourselves, but for other people too. And the people that are the most fulfilled are the ones that are in service, not only to themselves, but to of other people as well. And I love everything that I'm hearing. You know, I applaud you guys for being vulnerable, for sharing, because it's not easy to do this, especially, you know, at a random, well, it's not a random networking group, but it seems like we're on a random Zoom, just kind of meeting all over the, you know, it's kind of meeting all over from the world to talk about stress and anxiety. So this is wonderful. So we have a few more minutes before we get into Q&A. And basically how I want to end it is, hold on one second, sorry. Basically how I want to end this is I want us to do one more thing, one more exercise. And this is really going to hit home in terms of like, what is our biggest cause of stress and anxiety? So we're going to make an unhappy list. And an unhappy list is all the areas in our life that we're unhappy with. Now, this isn't meant to get us like depressed or just sad. What this is meant to do is to put into perspective, it's like, okay, these are all the things that are going to make me unhappy, or that are making me unhappy. And I am going to focus on maybe one or two of these things. And after we get those things squared away, then we can keep going down the list. So the way I teach and the way I run my coaching programs is we reflect together, and then we implement together, and then we recalibrate together. So I'm gonna kind of give you a taste of like what it's like to work with me. So we're gonna take the next 90 seconds to make an unhappy list. You don't have to share this. If you want, you can, more power to you. I obviously don't mind sharing, but this is just something that we're gonna put aside and be like, okay, after we make that list, we're gonna highlight maybe one or two of the top things that we need to focus on, which are going to allow us to have more space, more clarity, more headspace to get into the other aspects that we need to focus on in terms of growing our business, growing our health, growing our relationships, or whatever it may be. All right, so we're gonna start right now, 90 seconds. Let's go. An unhappy list. We're making everything, we're jotting down everything that we're unhappy with. Okay. Anybody want to share? If not, no worries. Scott says busy work, super late lunches that turn into junk food, not carving out time for daily exercise. Scott, I feel you. Venus says negotiation and strategic skills. Okay, Vina, I think we know what we need to work on then, yeah? Lou said uncertainty and Scott said busy work twice. So Scott must be really doing a lot of busy work.
Or I hit enter too soon.
No, you're good. Donna says not exactly where to put my efforts. Yeah, Donna, I feel that. Natalie says negativity, discord, and lack of respect. Okay, so Natalie, is self-respect one of your values as well? Might be a good one to implement right now. Jennifer suffers from the comparison paradox, comparing myself to others. Okay, I get that. And Amanda says anxiety. Cool, got it. Scott, I'm not sure how Q&A works. Do people just speak or do people?
Dan is gonna lead us, Mr. Rojas. Anybody want to raise their hand or put anything in the chat? Either one is fine.
If anybody wants to speak up, feel free. Just unmute yourself.
Yeah, do you have a group coaching program or something of that nature? How do we work?
Amanda, what I'm proposing is that he take over a Network in Action franchise and offer this monthly, because we've all been so peaceful here for the last hour.
This was incredible.
You guys did incredible. Yeah. And Amanda, I do have something that I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat in a little bit for sure.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for engaging, being vulnerable. Really, really appreciate it. Anybody else?
Got a
I
question.
have one thing to add, if I may. It was extremely ironic for me, as a financial advisor, the first thing I ask my clients is, what are your values in life? I don't care about making you money. I want to attach your money to your values. Yet I've never asked myself that question. I guess because I'm constantly immersed in what I care about and what I'm focused on and what I'm trying to do. I've never actually taken the time to sit down and say, what are my values? You know, I always use my grandfather as a comparison. He raised me. And I always said, if my name could reach half the caliber of his name, I lived a pretty damn good life. You know, so that's always been an objective of mine. But to actively sit there and say, what in fact do I value? I ask the question multiple times a day, but I've never taken the time to ask myself. So for that, I thank you. I'm going to have to sit down and actually do a deep dive into myself on that one.
Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Lou, thank you also for speaking up and being engaging in the chat as well, for sure.
I had a question. So what do you, as far as like if someone is in kind of in the throes of anxiety, like completely hijacked by a recurring thought or something, all right, and they're just like in just that yucky space, right? What kind of tools would you recommend for navigating out of the funk? And at what point do you think like maybe professional help or even your help they should reach out?
Daniel, that's a wonderful question. Should we do a quick exercise that will get you out of stress and anxiety in a heartbeat?
Sure.
All right. So this is a quick meditation and breathing exercise. So what we're going to do is make sure that your feet are flat on the floor because we need to ground. We need to have good posture. Okay. Then we're going to inhale through the nose. I want us to lift our arms up. Just get a good stretch in. And then go ahead and bring it down and place your hands on top of your thighs, okay? Now, close your eyes. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Well, actually, if you want to open your eyes to see me, you can open your eyes to see me, but take a deep inhale through the nose. Hold it at the top. And slowly exhale through the mouth. Hold again, and then inhale, hold, exhale, hold. So this is called box breathing. So let's go ahead and do 2 rounds of this, and I'm gonna tap my thigh to indicate counts, and we're gonna try to do a 4 count hold. 4 inhale, 4 hold, 4 exhale, 4 hold. All right, close your eyes, inhale through the nose, hold, exhale through the nose, or through the mouth, sorry. Hold. 2 more. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Last round. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Okay, now gently blink your eyes open. Okay, how was that?
Good stuff. First time I've done that in 8 years.
8 years too late, but 8 years better than never.
I want to say thank you for the unhappy list, because then I think it helps us to kind of reevaluate what we're at. I feel like there's times when it's like we're only supposed to look at the positive, not look at the negative, even and there subconsciously, you know, in the back, where we need to bring it to the forefront. So hopefully we can wipe it away.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Monica, did you want to share anything that's on your unhappy list, since we're all being vulnerable here?
Sure. For me, I'm all about efficiency, and I'm not feeling like I'm efficient right now. And so that gets myself kind of in a chaotic state and unpreparedness. And then I start feeling overwhelmed. And then I have to stop and like, okay, how am I going to bring this back? And then that's when the unhealthy eating happens, you know, because I'm trying to deal with it not the right way. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Yourself.
Thank you for sharing that. it's funny. We're human beings. Everything is related. The deeper we can get into ourselves to understand what that relationship is, then the easier it'll be to get out. But if we're being honest, it's a lot easier to watch Netflix. It's a lot easier to scroll on Facebook. It's a lot easier to scroll on Instagram, you know? So we are where we're at because it's more convenient temporarily to avoid it than to look deep down and to relinquish it, so to say. It's easier to, you know, keep it hidden and buried compared to like pulling out the root. Like, okay, like weeds are a perfect example, right? It's easier to just like trim the weeds instead of actually pulling the damn weed out, right? So, good. Anybody else?
Question in the chat. Perhaps I didn't do the activity correctly. I listed things I observe outside myself that cause me unhappiness. You have thoughts on that?
Natalie, no, I mean, that's fine. If you actually want to get on and kind of share what you did, I'd love to coach you through it if you want to get coached.
No, when I typed in negativity, discord, and lack of respect, those aren't things I was necessarily you know, I just thought we were making a list of things that cause us to be unhappy, and those were just a few that I listed. And then
well,
when you were saying, oh, you might need some self-respect, I'm like, no, I have self-respect. Like, so that's why I thought maybe I didn't quite do it correctly. But anyway.
Well, okay, well, just like talking about negativity, right? Like if negativity makes you unhappy, okay, then let's say, this is a far too common theme, but let's just say hypothetically your best friend is a very negative person, you know, but you're attached to your best friend because you've known him, you know, most of your whole life. It's okay to step away from that relationship and that negativity until, you know, you feel good about it. And then maybe you can go back. And if nothing still changes with that, even if you try talking to her, like it's okay to not have that in your life anymore. And you actually bring up a good point with negativity, because a lot of us get attached to the past and how experiences played out in the past. And because we get attached to that, we expect that to be recreated in our present and in the future. And when it doesn't, we get disappointed because it's like, it's not meeting our expectations. So with negativity, with discord, yeah, or just with anything that doesn't vibe with you, that is not in Natalie's ethos, right? Like, how do we distance ourselves from that as much as possible? Now, sometimes we might not be able to get out of it, but can we alleviate it as much as possible? Does that help?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Anything else? Any other questions? You guys are doing amazing. These are fantastic questions.
Pree, thank you very much. As the founder of this organization, I feel like a big mother bear. I'm very reluctant to let people speak to my cubs. And I always notice that when you wonder how you're doing, well, I can tell you, when 54 people start the Zoom and at an hour and 10 minutes later, 54 is still on, we did pretty good. So thank you very, very much. Quick commercial. Don't forget the first Wednesday of the month, 3 o'clock Central Time. We always have Network with the Nations. We now have South America and a gentleman from China, a few people from Canada joining us. So if you can offer your services across state lines and national lines, by all means, jump on there. I just heard about an IT company that passed a $180,000 piece of business on that call. So it's working. And then the third week of the month, you're welcome to join us for Sales Mastery, and obviously our speaker series for the fourth week. I don't know if it'll be as peaceful next month, Pree, but you did a great job. I'm chilled out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And just before we go, I got 2 action items for you. If you want to support me, I have a Facebook group called Stress Free with Pree, titled appropriately because it's stress free and my name is Pree. So if you guys want to join that, I will go ahead and put that in the chat right now.
Perfect.
And I am offering a special discount to NIA members only. I have various price packages, but if you're looking to get like an introductory monthly stress and anxiety group coaching session, usually I charge $1,000 for this, but for NIA, I'm bringing it down to $97. The code is NIA97. I will go ahead and put that in the chat as well, because I really appreciate you guys and Scott and Charles and everybody that has given me this platform to speak. So I want to give back to you guys. And if there's also any performance coaching that you think would benefit your company, your business, or your corporation, I would love to sit down and talk with you about that as well. Because I've actually gotten hired by one of our own mortgage companies at NIA. I was able to turn 75% of their employees. And once I was able to do that, and he stopped worrying about the employees that I wasn't able to turn, in July, he closed 12 deals, which is really good in this market for real estate. And he closed 9 deals in August. So there's something to that instead. There's something to that as well. So, and that's it.
Pree, thank you very much for both of those offers. Very, very generous of you. Thank all of you for your time. I know that's your most precious commodity. We appreciate you spending some of it with us. Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. Thank you all.
Thank you guys. Have a good one. Bye.